Hi, everyone. This is Hi, and we will be reviewing and reacting to the movie Tao Das. This is Anita.
Hi, 안녕하세요. This is Brenda.
Hi everyone, my name is Jack.
Hi, this is Kevin Pung Hyung.
So again, like what Nita said, we will be reviewing and we will be doing a reaction to the movie Todas by Chelly Productions. So for if you haven't like seen the movie yet, this just so you guys know, disclaimer: we will be giving out spoilers. We'll be saying a lot of things that happen in the movie and giving us our honest review and opinions on certain scenes. We may be showing certain scenes of us reacting to certain things. So if you have not watched it, this is your warning. There will be spoilers. But for those who have watched it, hopefully, whatever we say, maybe if you agree or don't agree, but let us know in the comments below what you think about the movie as well. We would love to hear what you guys thought on certain scenes as well too.
So, to break it down for you guys who are watching this and have no desire to either watch the film or haven't seen the film, pretty much, and this is a huge spoiler, pretty much the film is broken up into like three segments, and we kept referring to the whole thing as like skits, right? It felt like three shorts in one film. And when you first watch like the first two portions, it's like, okay, like they're two different things. And then the third segment kind of ties in the first one all together and a little bit of the second one. But like the second segment was just kind of like, it was really good. Is by far my favorite, but it was just like, how does this tie around with this whole overall storyline? Yeah, it was just, I don't know. I would still recommend you guys to watch it, support your home like filmmakers, but yeah, like I feel like the first segment, the first skit was like the way that they edited it. I think that's the one thing I was most bothered about is the way that everything was edited. Like the storyline was like super choppy. Like they were trying to like move along really fast and they didn't really give any time for development to like feel the vibes of it. Like that's why I said like my favorite part was like part when like the sad part at the end of like the first skit where he was like, "Oh, like Godzilla long or whatever." Huh? That was like my favorite.
Mm-hmm. But
First
I
thing.
feel like after watching the movie play out like that, though, like it made sense to why it was so stretched out very long in the beginning, because you know how when we were watching it we kept saying and referring to like, oh, it's very long, it's very dragged out, but I think it's to fill in the moments of like, this is what's happening when they show it in the
And the
third
scenes.
skit. Yeah, like why
Yeah.
it's stretched out for so long. So like that to me like makes sense in the very end, why it was stretched out for so long. But yeah, like you can watch the first skit by itself and that's already like its own story. You could watch the second skit by itself and that's its own story. Just have the mindset of it's not connected, like those two, until you watch the third one. But it doesn't really connect at the same time. At least that's how I read it. So
I
actually
just wish
the
that the
second
first
skit,
one
oh,
was
yeah, go ahead.
longer. I just wish the first one was longer. Like that was more of an interesting storyline for me, you know?
Yeah.
Second one was good, and the third one was just like if that was shorter, I wouldn't mind. But it was like long.
Yeah.
Like way too long for me.
But I don't know, and I guess it's just it makes sense to me at the end. Like I said, it just comes back. You have to watch it to like really understand like why it's long. But I mean, it can still be stretched out. Um, but the first part though, there's a lot of things that didn't make sense to me still. Like that guy, the guy that we thought was really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
No idea like if his intentions were to come off as creepy or not, because it was, how like we talked about that while watching it too. We're just kind of like, what the heck?
I forgot his name.
Yeah, I forgot too, but he's just, I don't know what he was there like. I understand like his part was to just show a supporting role and saying like, hey, use this to protect you, but like it doesn't make sense. Like him touching her hand like that, like it was just kind of like, oh, he a creep. Like he's here to like,
Uh-huh.
now that she a widow, like I can like swoop in and like talk to her now or something, And I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the creepy vibes I got, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think they should
It's
have
just the way that they
never.
shot it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think they should have never like introduced him like that. like because once it passed that beginning part where he was like a creep, then as his character kind of became more like casual and more like a supportive character, which I felt like was better. So I think they should have never like introduced him as like a creep. They should have just introduced him like as a good friend, like their little like trio friends there,
Mm-hmm.
and then like have him be more supportive in that way, you know. Then at least then we don't feel like, oh, is there gonna be more to it, you know, like, oh, is he gonna come back and do more weird stuff, or like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you know. But yeah.
I have a feeling that wasn't their intention for his role, but the way that it was perceived in the way that they filmed it, you know, especially like focusing on like him holding her hand over that knife, whatever, like
Yeah.
and switching over, like that to me, like that immediately, like the way I processed was like, oh my god, is he trying to like get with her because now she's like a widow? Yeah. So it's just kind of like, what the frig? But yeah, as it played out, it became more of like, yes, they're just friends, but it's like the whole time we were figuring it out because what, like first 5 minutes in, you're still trying to figure out like what the heck the storyline is about, and it like moves on so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah, they went from a
That-
lot of like day scenes to night scenes really fast. So then we couldn't really understand. Well, you kind of understand, but you don't really get the whole like idea, and you don't get the feeling of it, you know, once you do get to that certain segment, especially when it is the night scenes, you know, like the night scenes I feel like is so fast. I think they could have added a little bit more like jump scares or
Mhm.
just more suspense to the jump
Mhm.
scares, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the one part that was super scary was the funeral music, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There is a scene where there's funeral music. I mean, given that I know that it's like not everything you hear at the funeral, but it's still scary, you know. And I think they could have built on that more, you know. They only showed it like briefly and then like a little bit of happened. But I think if they like extended it and made it more suspenseful and made like a scare happen like after that, like it could have been really good.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that too, where it's just like so fast. They have so many chances for them to fill in that spot, but maybe their main focus was not to have it be scary at all, you know, and maybe their focus was to just like for you to like sympathize with her because it is, you know, very hard and she's very scared but she's very like, you know. But I don't know. That's why they didn't do all that. But there were so many chances that could have happened, and I don't know. I guess it was a very mixed feeling for me for that first part.
Well, I felt like, yeah, I agree that, you know, they had a lot of opportunities to do all those things, and I felt like they wanted to do those things, but they didn't do those things. They did something else, which made it even longer, which made us, I believe, feel the way that we did feel about it, you know, because yes, overall it's comedy, right? But I felt like each skit is supposed to center around like a different idea or like a different feel. Like the first one obviously is supposed to be very, very scary, very, very serious, right? And the second one is kind of like I feel like why it's in there, even though technically I feel like they try to all mesh it all together at the end, but I feel like that one is still very like out there because towards the end they just threw in those two characters again, you know.
Mhm.
And it's like, was that their excuse for trying to put it all together?
Relevance.
Because it still didn't make and it still didn't make any sense because we saw, you know, the characters, the two guys crying to each other towards the end, and it's like that still doesn't make any sense because it's like we know one's a ghost and is the other one a ghost or is it not a ghost or like what's going on? And so it's just like confusing to follow through, like, you know, what's the real world, what's the spirit world. But anyways, the second one, even though it was out there, it was kind of like I felt like that was saying to us like, okay, everything is not what it seems, right?
Mhm.
So to foreshadow maybe the first one, right? And then the third one is like, yeah, everything is not what it seems because here's what really happened, and that's when it becomes a little bit lighter, a little bit more comical, right? So I felt like if they were trying to do that, where each one did have like a different feel and each one had like a different message and stuff like that, then I feel like for the very first one, they should have taken their time to really go in and, you know, like what all you guys said, to make it more suspenseful and to make it just more tasteful, you know. And that was like, I guess, you know, something that was, you know, present throughout the whole thing is that it all could have been more tasteful for whatever that they were trying to do. And even though number two was far out there, I think that was one of the better ones. in terms of like just them trying to be creative and whatever they were trying to do. I like that one a lot better. But yeah.
But the thing is that like when they transitioned, it was so hard for us to
Transitions are
understand.
trash.
Mm-hmm.
My gosh.
Like 'cause,
Transitions are trash.
like from the like for us to figure out that it was a new scene, like because if the first scene it ended with her crying, right? When Long like said what he said, well not Long, but like saying what he said to her, and we saw her just crying and order like like and then all of a sudden it switches, which is kind of like, oh, okay, like you understand, but you didn't understand that it was a new movie or like a new skit until the two characters do their thing, and then we're all thinking, oh, is this a new life of theirs? Is this their past life? Is this, because you're trying to connect it right away, because who are these two people? Maybe they're just two new characters, and then we're just like, okay, they are two new characters when we figure that out, and then all of a sudden we saw that, like, the introduction to Uluche. I don't remember what they called it, like, and how I was like, when I saw that, I'm thinking like, why? This is Charlie Production presents Uluche or something, and I'm just like, why? What does that even mean? And I remember I kept questioning it. I was so annoyed with myself, but I was just like, I don't get it. So we're never gonna see them anymore. And that's when you guys mentioned like, oh, maybe Zhongguo Thai movies, or how it's there's like multiple different stories in a movie or film.
Yeah.
And that's when I was just like, okay, I'll just shut up, because maybe that's what it is then. And I'm just not happy, because like I'm so invested in like Long Tia, like yearns, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like you're just kind of like, oh, that's it, what's gonna happen? But I guess. And then I don't know how you guys feel about that transition.
Yeah, I mean, the transition was very confusing, but as bad and as crazy as all the transition and everything like that was, like I think the concept they had for the second skit was really good. It was really cool. I mean, at first it's confusing because you're trying to figure out what happened, but by the end of it, you're just like, whoa, like, okay, this is a pretty cool concept, with the shaman coming in and everything. And honestly, I feel like the way they shot it and the way that like once the couple come to that grave site area, and then like that whole little area like with the zombie, I think it's a zombie, or like the ghost like starts chasing them. I think that was really cool scene, and it was shot really well. And I think honestly, if they decided to ever do a Hmong zombie movie or something like that, I mean, they could keep it the same concept too. It could be a very cool idea, and they should like reshoot it in that similar way, where it's like running through the forest, being chased, and kind of having some little action going on there. I think that was really interesting.
Right.
And even their original concept was really cool, having those like, I don't know what they are. They're like spirits with like cloaks on them and stuff like that.
They
like,
look like Assassin's Creed, dude.
Yeah,
they look like from Assassin's Creed with the big hood, going down.
What were they called again? We were saying that it looks like the Harry Potter,
the Dementors.
Dementors, yes, from Harry Potter.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was really interesting. Yeah. And then even at the end, I think the idea they had with the sheet, the red sheet for like the shaman and teleporting people, I think that was really cool how they shot that and how they like kind of had that concept. I mean, given that when they finally introduced the shaman, they're like playing trumpet music.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, that kind of made it weird, because
Again,
comical.
those transitions could be improved. Those transitions can be improved, And like I was even suggesting that it would be dope if they would have shot this scene at night and like with the horse. Of course, like budget wise, so I understand, but like if the shaman would have been on a horse and then like his like Koning had like a lamp or something.
That's what we think
he came in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we think the what is it?
Hooded
Dementors
assassin.
or the Koning. But I thought the way that twist, oh my god, that storyline, the twist, like I did not expect that. It was very well thought out. And if they made just that second skit into a whole film, the whole concept, so freaking cool. That would be so cool if they introduced the shaman in that way, and then you follow the storyline of the shaman. That would be dope, Or of the main girl, like if she has like more like like paranormal like encounters and things like that, that would be really cool. But again, like the connection from the second skit to the third skit was just like why?
Yeah.
What is going on here? Like I'm confused.
Well, I mean,
and
even though it was confusing, did you guys, if their purpose was to cleanse our palate and to just be a break in between, even though the two first story and third stories are related to each other, but if their purpose was to just have that break in there and to cleanse our palates, what do you guys think about that? If that was their move and purpose of it?
I think it's fine, to be honest, because if they did that, I just wish they didn't connect it to the third story at all. Like that was so unnecessary. Like to try to make a connection because it was so good by itself. I mean, hence, I mean, even we thought it was kind of like rough at first, but then like when we started picking up like why is this character? Why is she so like sus? Why is she so oblivious? Why is she not understanding? And she's doing all these things, and then like he was being a little sus, and then we're like, how come he knows and he's like trying to do these things, like to me, that's why I was like, okay, yeah, there is something going on. So when we all had that reaction of like, oh my gosh, like it's because it's the spirit world, like I loved that so much. But it's just, then it didn't make sense to the third skit where we were kind of like, okay, like are these two guys backpacking again because are they spirits then? Are they in the spirit world? And then like why did we see them come across again? And like are they just trying to make it necessary? Like when we saw them sitting at the fireplace of that what's his name? He didn't have a name, huh? The guy with the wig. I don't think he had a name.
I don't remember.
The spirit?
Yeah,
He's pretty much just
guy,
a spirit.
Yeah, and then sitting with that Long guy, but that's not Long, right? Where they're sitting by the fire. I was like, so are they a spirit? Did they die? Are they in the spirit world? Like it was so many questions. I'm like, why? It's not even funny. Like to me, it's just like very confusing, And so, but if the purpose was to just to cleanse from the first part to the third part, I think they could have done like a side story to connect it at the end because it didn't connect at all. Like it's its own story and it's beautiful. I love the second skit, but it's just too random. So I don't know, mixed feelings about that, I guess.
If they were there for like a comedic sketch, right? Or like the third one is just all comedy and it's not supposed to make like a lot of sense. It's just for you to laugh. Then they definitely achieve that because I was really laughing when they're both like together at the fire and like they're just like sad, right? Like that was funny. Yeah. To me, but again, it's like, did it make sense? Not at all, but was it funny? Right. If it's like all your universes like meshed together, then that's like the third skit. Yeah. But it was just kind of weird because then it tied in with the first one, but it couldn't tie back in with the second one. They were just like pulling any type of strings they could to make it like work.
I mean, I think even Jack mentioned that when we were watching it, right? Jack was like, oh, I guess they don't care to make it make sense anymore, And it was just to do it. And maybe that's what they were doing, and I'm not sure. So I would love to understand that a little bit, but
yeah, even
it started off so good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say even their comedy is like it's overblown comedy. It's like they're trying too hard to make it funny that it doesn't become funny. It becomes kind of cringy and awkward. There was certain scenes that was really funny. Like I think the refrigerator, I mean like certain parts of the refrigerator was like overblown, but there was like specific parts of the refrigerator scene that was pretty funny, and then there were certain parts where like when they connected, like, oh, this is really what happened while the scary stuff was happening, but it was really just the two dudes. Like some of those parts were pretty funny, but I think it was starting to get overblown in the kitchen scene when they start grabbing the oranges and they start like
oh yeah, when they were just
around
ducking.
her.
Yeah, like
yeah. I was like, okay,
she couldn't see him. Like that's just
yeah, that was a little overblown there.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I get y'all just trying to be funny, but like she really
it started dragging
him.
for me.
Yeah, but I mean,
it just started dragging for me, and that's why I thought they were spirits because then even like like when the friend, like her friend, like walked by and he was just like sitting there, and he walked right past him, not like seeing him. Like I know it's supposed to be funny, which it is. It was funny to a certain extent, and then you kept like stretching it, and then it was just kind of like, okay, now this is just like
because you're trying to make sense of everything, right? And before we even.
Done, so.
as soon as they transition to something new, you're spending your time trying to make sense and piece everything together, but they don't give you that chance. They don't create that. They don't do that. They don't go all the way. They don't bring it all together. So towards the end, it's just like, okay, so you said, it's like you're trying to sew in fall directions, and it's just like they don't show you how. They're just saying and it's just like a hot mess at the end, to be honest.
Right. Like, I mean, like, even, like, certain scenes, like, for example, I loved the scene with Toei, when she's sleeping and she wakes up and she finds him in the bathroom, and then, like, literally, you know, like, that to me was funny. Like, but then, like, I think the third time he did it, it was kind of like, okay, I get it, it's whatever. And then when she had the pan, so I was like, huh, like, so, she's trying to make it make sense, too, where she's kind of like, is this really happening? Why do I keep, you know? And that part, after that, then that was a weird scene too, where he was like ducking again, and he's like trying to, like, you know, and I thought that was a really weird part. I didn't like that. But then the part where Toei he gets caught again, and that's when he was like and that like brought back to like, okay, yeah, that was funny again, because it spaced out enough where like it was still funny and relevant to still like knock her out again, you know. And I thought that was funny and brilliant to do that. But the whole like Toei like that, I just don't like, because it's like, come on now, he's, even in your peripheral view, you can see that he's bent over right by you, you know. I don't know. It was just.
Oh my god. Okay, one of my favorite scenes from this third skit was when the two hitchhikers break into the house and they're coming in, and it's the first scene where she runs back to get her jacket, right? She tells her friend, because they were going to leave the house, like, oh, I gotta go grab my jacket. And then he and like the main girl, like, so, right? And both of them, like, you know, make eye contact. Of course, she thinks that's Long, and then he looks at her for the, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so gorgeous. And like the way they shot it was so hilarious. I was like, I thought that was by far one of my favorite scenes from the third skit, and it dragged a little bit, but it was like funny, like it was very comedic, and I loved it. Like that's one of my favorites
and everything.
But like yeah, that was hilarious. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah. And like, you know, and like that's why you're like, oh, so, you know how there are certain parts where like they're so loud, like how when they were eating at the table really fast before she came back, like she heard that, but she don't hear footsteps when they like go around anywhere. Like she don't hear anything else, but she hears that part, and they don't hear, like, her and her friend, they don't hear the cuckoo, she's cuckoo, she's cuckoo, 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 cuckoo. Like that's so loud too, you know, like I don't know. So it's like, how
the one entrance, one exit, how like how did they leave out from the same entrance that she's coming from? Like there's just like questions or stuff that didn't really make sense. But again, I think the third skit is just meant to just not make sense at all.
Yeah, just to have the comedy in there, and but like it still, like, again, ties into the first one. Does not make sense with the second one, but I liked it. It was funny, but it was just very dragging. Like Jack said too, it's just overdone some parts, very cringy, but I get it. It's if it's not your type of humor, then it's just very hard to watch, you know.
Other people probably watch our stuff and are like, we're not funny, so who knows?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, the actors were like pretty decent, you know, like I think some of the actors were doing really great. You know, they were able to express correctly like what they wanted to, you know, give to the audience and for the audience to understand. Especially you know, I think she did her role pretty well, being very subtle, and, you know, just kind of even her like crying emotions were pretty good. So I think that was really good. And the guy that was like the hitchhiker, that was apparently Long, I think he did well for his parts too. I mean, technically he was Long anyways. So I think he did well for his parts when he's like emotional, you know, when he had to like tell Yara, being like, oh, you know, like I'm not Long and everything. Like I think he did really well there. His comedy scenes, I don't know.
Such a good scene.
Yeah, I think the comedy scenes were okay. But yeah.
But, you know, I gotta give it to them though, because as us, you know, we are content creators too, and we have to be our own actors in a lot of our skits. Actually, I mean, if anything, all of our skits. it's very hard to act, you know, like, cause so I try to understand where they're coming from, and I'm pretty sure it's hard for them too, because I know it's very hard for me when I act, right, for us, and it's hard to channel that, but it's like, it's very easy to see that they are having a hard time saying it. It doesn't come out very natural, you know. And of course, like, that happens to us too. It happens to me too. I'll speak for myself, you know, that when I try to be natural in front of the camera, sometimes it doesn't look like it. And, you know, but how do we try to make it very natural? You know, that's why, you know, with us four, we are able to be like, okay, I don't like how it was written. Can I change it to make it sound a little more natural, you know, for our liking? So I guess it's hard when you have a whole team like that and you have to follow a script. So it's a very hard thing to be an actor if you're not an actor, right? So you can tell who has more experiences, you can tell who doesn't. So hopefully, like, you know, like, they understand that, like, oh yeah, like, I did, you can tell that I'm not sympathizing with her, you know, like, especially like that friend of yours, like, she looked like she was forced to say these things, and she's not being like her friend, you know.
Yeah.
Like, it just seemed like,
Except for the part where she said, "Girl."
yeah, so it's just you can tell that, like, you know, the Chicho both play like a part or their role, like that guy that was being very creepy, you know. And I don't know if it was like a script thing, or that, you know, made him receive it like that, or if that's, he didn't know how to act his part, so he came off as creepy. Who knows, you know. So I don't know, just have to understand your character and do it and be natural, and because people don't speak like that sometimes, you know.
Well, Kevin, being as an actor, majority of in our videos, what do you think about what it's like being an actor?
I think, you know, of course, you want to capture, you know, whoever the script writer is, the director is, their vision. But, you know, if you as the actor, actress are feeling that this might be more natural, you know, because of whatever reasons, and this is just based off of, you know, my experience, our experience in high, right, where whoever wrote the script, you know, we read it, we go along with it, but if we feel like the need to change it, like Brenda said, we would change it in a way where it's like based off of our experience, you know, because then it's just more natural for us because we know how we say that, right? Because I think it just goes back to like how much you pay attention to your own self, you know, and like when you talk, you know, and you're just like, well, yeah, I know that I would say it like who we don't know what kind of friend Yer is, honestly, and in real life, right? Because if I was her, I would have been like, girl, you need to stop. Don't do it. Because if you do it, I'm not going to be there for you because I already told you not to do it. And you did it. So don't come crying to me. Kind of, you know, that's who I am. And what I would say, you know, and so it's kind of like, I feel like for her, you didn't even see, like, feel anything from her. Whether, I mean, you can tell what she was saying, but it's like, how concerned is she? Or is she more upset, like, if this friend is more this or that? And it could be both. It could be the writer or it could be the actor and actress as well too, you know, not putting in because the actor or actress is trying too hard now to follow the script, and then the writer is not paying enough attention to, you know, how natural things are, and so then they're making the character come off like to this or to that and doesn't have a personality, I feel like. And so the character was just lost, you know. And so that could happen for that guy too. That's why we think he's a freak, because they have two personalities, you know.
Yeah.
Both supporting characters, they have two personalities. She was trying to support her friend. She would let her friend sleep over. That's great, you know, because sometimes they don't like that. But then also at the same time too, she seemed like she was tired of her friend too. So it's like, choose one, honey. And then we have the other friend who was either a freak but also supportive, and who would cook for her and who would cut the thing for her. So it's just like, which one are you? You know.
Yeah.
So, I feel like, yeah, it's just I feel like just the whole vibe of it was just very like they're trying to capture an aesthetic or just trying to be tasteful, but it was not, and it could have been better, only because they didn't like in a way were real with themselves and then were real with everyone else, and just so that it could be a little bit more natural. Because I understand that when we make movies and we speak Hmong, we want to sound, grammatically correct. We want to sound not dumb, right? But also at the same time, it's like, well, based on the time and everything like that, and if it's like Hmong American, then it's like they should keep things consistent. They should, what is it? Yeah, just be more natural and just speak how we would speak. Because when we did hear some stuff, I'm pretty sure we all thought like, why y'all gotta say it like that, So it's like nobody says it really like that, And it's like, okay, well, maybe because they bought the little genre, right? So it's like, oh, of course, because the little genre, so they should like the boy, but then after like it's just like, no, y'all speak the same Hmong as we do. So why y'all trying to do something that's like out of your like you're like, you can just tell they don't say those words with their tongues enough to where it rolls off naturally. So you can just tell already that, see, now they're doing too much now, so they're doing too much of what they think needs to be done and not enough of what needs to be done.
Yeah, I agree. Like going back to what you guys were talking about, like the writer and the director and being the actor itself, like I think a lot of times, especially if their production is this big, like being an hour long at least, then like they have to memorize the lines. And I think that's what they did, was they tried focusing more on memorizing the lines so that when they do different takes, from different angles, then it's consistent, because like that's something I've definitely noticed when we do our projects. And like when I'm the director or writer or something like that, I'll try to make like Kevin or Brenda or Anita like say the same line over and over again, because like we have to do it from different takes, and as the editor too, like it is like frustrating working with like clips that are like said differently, or like you're doing a different movement, or maybe you're using your right hand now or later then you're using your left hand, that it doesn't like stay consistent. So it is probably like having that ability to make it consistent, that is why they speak it like that, making it very scripted or anything. So that way when they do it post-production, then everything like flows well together. And it did flow really nice. A lot of the shots, like the technical things, like the shots that they did were nice because it all kind of like flowed together. It wasn't too like inconsistent. So I that's a plus, But
Right.
again, the script and the acting of it was like very scripted, and it just felt like they were reading off of something, or they were looking and doing expressions when it wasn't really matching what the conversation was happening,
Yeah. And for
There you
sure,
go.
because like I feel like because of what you said too, like I think we understand enough of the editing and why, because before, when I, was an actor for some of our skits, I never understood why I had to say the same thing over and over again, until you had mentioned that one day during one of our skits that we were recording. You're like, oh, because it's hard to edit that post-production when you're not saying the same thing. And that's when it clicked to me, and I was like, oh, no wonder if I'm gonna bring this same energy, I have to bring it the same energy every time, or else it's gonna throw it off when he selects this scene and this
Consistency.
yeah, so and like you said, Jack, I don't know if it's the director or like the actors themselves or like the script, like it's not like that. That's why it seemed really scripted too. So yeah, I'm just echoing what Jack said, and I think that's probably why. But I mean, there was like, and knowing how we're able to see those things, like for example, like the kaya, right, from the fridge, how it didn't have labels, on them in the fridge, and then the final take where Tolu kept by Ken, when they finally got it, there was labels on it. So I was like, that was probably the one really good take that they got, and that had labels on it. They realized, oh, we don't like the labels on it, so they took it off. So when they were shooting the other scenes from the fridge where they kept getting slammed in and whatever, there was no stickers on it. So I think that was one thing that they missed, and they should have reshot again with no stickers, doing the same scene, so to keep it consistent. But I caught that and I was like, oh, that's funny, they didn't catch that.
So to add to Brenda's thing about like the Kongai Jumo has like label, and then it did have the label. Our thing we were mentioning too was the freaking candle.
Oh yes,
Like it
yeah.
was supposed to be showing like that time has passed, that this candle has been lit for like how many days. Like they shot back at like the last scene of the candle. That candle looked new as hell. Like it should be melting already, like where it's been on forever, right? Because she's been like her lover has been dead this long, like they buried him and like she's always gonna light it up. That thing should be like decreasing little by little, right? So it's like things like that I think like the details and things will, as a viewer, I would like to see to like show me that, oh, like this is how long it's been, you know. But it just didn't. Like I think those little things like would have helped to convey that message. But I guess for us, because we've done this for quite a bit, like when I look at that, I'm just like, it's the same candle. They just did multiple different shots and then just used it over and over again throughout the film. And like, yeah, I mean, we notice those things, and I understand that acting is really hard, you know, like I suck at my lines and repeating the same thing over and over again. But it's like once you say it enough times, that authentic feeling gets lost, and that's why it feels very scripted for some of the lines that they said. So it's understandable. I get it.
Yeah.
Lighting in the film, I think for some of the scary parts could have been improved. Like I mentioned before, when she was walking down the stairs and the way that the light casted a shadow, it just seemed super unnatural for like what a house would look like, you know, or like the way, like if you're supposed to create a mood, like it definitely didn't really create that like that feel for me. Because like with film, like your lighting plays a huge role in conveying a type of emotion. Or like the second skit, I love the fact that we were so oblivious to them being in the spirit world, but it would have been dope to see like just the editing or the lighting like convey that it was in a whole different realm, you know. So those are just like little critiques that I have and like I noticed throughout. Do you guys see anything different or want to add to that?
I mean, I just agree with you. That's all. I think it would have been cool if, like, especially for like, I don't even know what to call it. Short film number 2, Luce.
Mhm.
Yeah, they all have titles. We should refer to them as that. But I think it would have been cool if that thing kind of had like a filter or some kind of just like color change to it, or just something to where it's like, oh, like this is like not Earth or something like that, you know. I think that would have been nice too, but maybe that you know, they didn't want to give it away, you know, and stuff like that. But it would still be cool to just, you know, have those things as well too. And so I don't know, I feel like that's very I guess subjective, but I guess when it does come to lighting, I think that's a little bit less subjective, since I mean, if your lighting doesn't make sense because the sun's over here or whatever, then and you're casting a shadow over there, yeah, then that's not subjective at all. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, coming from a more like cinematic point of view, I think, yeah, definitely the lighting, I agree with Anita. I felt like it was underused or used wrongly for certain scenes, but I think they could have done it a better way to portray like horror, right? Like with the first skit, I think they could have portrayed it a little bit better with like lighting maybe coming from a different area, or maybe lighting coming from outside of the building to cast more like that window shadow, or just making it seem more like it's nighttime and there's not so much light, so that it kind of builds on that like suspense, right? So then you're like, oh shoot, like something's really gonna come out and it's coming out from the dark area, you know. And like, yeah, because even when like she's on her bed, the hallway looks like the lights is on, but then her light in the bedroom's not on. So it's like, you know, just playing around with different lighting, you know. And I do understand that it's very hard to light at night, especially, you know. So for sure, the second skit, the Uluche, I think that one, like, as you know, hard as it is, you know, I think they tried their best to make the lighting work, especially when they're filming at night, and to focus on the actors. Even though I think they could have done a little bit more, you know, maybe they didn't have enough budget to like be able to do that, but I think they could have done a little bit more with just maybe having more lights, or maybe even fogging it up. You know, I saw that they had fog in the first skit, you know, when they do like the night scene and transition to the house, they have fog. So I think they could have done a little bit of fog on the second one, the Uluche skit, just to convey, yeah, like spirit realm, or just,
Well,
you
they
know,
have
uneasy.
the smoke. They have the smoke when the hooded people came, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they
I
always
mean,
they
yeah,
always
there's
had smoke
that,
when they
yeah.
came. Yeah. So I don't know if that's when they're trying to show that
Like,
like
physically,
there's something
or
else.
I don't know if that was like physically or if it was just like post like
Post-production.
production.
It looks like
Yeah, I think
post-production as
it
well.
looked like it was post production.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
But
think.
I mean,
that's
I
awesome.
loved the second. I love the second like skit. It was, I think, I mean, it is my favorite out of like the whole thing. There's like a lot of parts within the first that I really liked, and then parts in this third one that I really liked. But if they would have just like xed out the first and the third part and just focused on the second one and like prolonged that story,
Mhm.
like,
If that was its
you
own
know,
movie.
it would have been like, dang, yeah, dang, this would have been like solid, and like those little
She just
kids,
screams.
woo,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
like
happened
it was
to her?
good. Mean Girl, like, you know, that Mean Girl in the second skit, she was doing a really good job because she was able to convey all those emotions of like, what the fuck, what is she thinking about, like, why is she acting so stupid, you know?
Mhm.
Like, if you can draw that out from your viewers, I think you as a writer, you as a director, and you as an actor did a really good job at like pulling that out. Because dude, I did not expect that twist, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
none of us did. And so
Mhm.
that was really cool. I just always gotta say, transitions were just like weird. Like, the shaman transition coming in was just like, is this supposed to be funny? Like, I was expecting it to be really cool.
Yeah, like a
Um,
trumpet,
Yeah.
or like
Hey,
if
just
they just
transitioning
hit
from
the
like the
gong,
first
you
segment to
know?
the second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they just hit the
Or like the first
dong
segment to
and
the
then like a
second
gong,
segment, it's
yeah.
just was just weird. Like, there's just some things where just like the way that it flowed was just like, ugh, like it could just be better. Like I said, it didn't feel like a movie. It felt more like small shorts and all in one. And so maybe if that's what they were going for, then they achieved that. But I would have wanted something more seamless, you know, as a viewer.
No, I think well,
Yeah.
first one, heck, third one as its own like short film movie. Like I think that'll be just fine. The second one should be its own short film movie. Like even if it was
Yeah.
like however long it was. Like if they just released it like how it is, like even just on YouTube or something like. I'm assuming it's not enough to put it as a DVD budget or like production movie. You know, that's
Yeah.
probably why they did that. But if it was just by itself and uploaded by itself, I think it would have been just beautiful by itself. Because like Anita said, you don't expect those feelings when the actor is acting that way, because you know we're like, somebody is sus, who's sus, why is she acting like this, why is he acting like this, you know, like or you but yeah, and it was very good at the very end when we all realized at the same moment with the trumpet playing, you know. Well, the trumpet was kind of like, what the heck, and then
When I
after
saw
the trumpet,
when I saw the little bells, I was like, "Ooh, I know what's happening next." Yeah, but it's like I was so excited for the second one. Like throughout, like as I was watching, I was like really like zoned in, and that just shows you how good it was, right? But like the third one, I was like, "All right, this scene is dragging. I'm ready. Like, come on, let's just get it over with. Let's get going."
Mhm.
Yeah, so again, I think there's a lot of improvements to be made, but overall as like a whole film, like it wasn't as good nor as bad as I like thought it would be. Like, so it was like, oh, okay, I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah,
You know,
for real. At least you can say that you watched it, right?
so I mean,
I don't see all of their posts.
yeah, like I try not to read any of the reviews at all, but for me, like sometimes when I happen to scroll by it, I see them give a rating, right? Like people give a rating like, oh, would recommend, 10 out of 10, or, whatever rating that they do. And I think it's very cool that Charlie Production, they just share all those reviews, for people to understand that, like, hey, like, you should, watch it, because these are, like, real reviews from other people. And, like, again, shout out to Charlie Productions for allowing us to watch their film, and, allowing us to review it as well. And I think it's really cool that they allowed us to do that, because I think, we are not just an audience, we are also content creators as well. So I think it's a different perspective for us. I at least appreciate all the work that they do, because you get to see some of the things that we do, and we understand where it's coming from and all that stuff. So seeing the reviews, I had really high expectations for this movie because of those ratings that I do happen to pass by. But if you guys were to give a rating, though, what would you guys say out of 10? How about
Anita,
this?
you go first.
How about this? Let's do ratings for just like each individual skits, and then give your ratings for overall.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, Anita, you go first.
Okay, am I going first?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I, it's weird because they're all different genres. You know, I feel like each skit was its own genre. If I were to rate skit number one, I would say that was a 6 out of 10 for me. And if I were to rate the second one, that would be like an 8 or a 9 for me, just because like it was really good. Like there's really not much for me to say about it. It was just really good. And then the third one was confusing as hell, but for the sake of it being like funny and comedic, I did really enjoy that. So that to me was like a 7 out of 10. Yeah, even though it was just like all over. Yeah, that's what I would rate it. The first one was. I wish their nights were longer and the days were shorter, for filming wise. But
What about overall?
overall, forgot my total. Overall, I would rate this a 7 out of 10. I will rate it a 7 out of 10. I haven't seen Hmong movies in a long time, so besides like the ones I've already seen when I was younger, you know, so I always just go back and rewatch like old films. So it's really exciting to see where like Hmong filmmakers are doing now and what they're doing. So I know that if they're already this good, like if their second skit is this good, they have so much more potential to filming something even better, you know. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's not like I'm not saying like, oh yeah, like I'm never gonna watch their stuff again. It's like, no, this is really good. I really want to see what they do next. And so this also makes me want to go watch their other film that we were supposed to review too. I was like really gonna, you know, I was already on my way to like purchasing so we can all watch it together. We were supposed to do it this year for Halloween, but we ended up getting really busy, so we didn't do that.
What about you, Jack?
7 out of 10.
So for me, the first skit, I would have to give it like a 10. I think they could have done better at certain areas. I think they could have like added more scenes in there and take out certain scenes, you know, just to make the story make sense and to kind of build a story technically, you know. I mean, there was kind of a story, but they jumped around so much that's like you didn't get time to, you know, put the pieces together. And then for the second one, yeah, I would have to say similar to Anita, like an 8 out of 10. I think that was a really good story. I mean, it started off kind of like weird because we were still trying to connect it, but once we did connect it at the end, it was like, oh dang, like, you know, now I want to know what happened before that, or I want to know what happens after that, you know, like does it all just end or like what happens next, you know? So I think they could definitely build off of that more. And then for the third skit, I would have to probably give it like, yeah, same thing, like 5 out of 10 because it was in like the same setting. I wish that they could have. I mean, like it's fine having it being like horror and then comedy and then connecting the two, which was a nice thing, you know, because you don't see a lot of movies like that. Usually it's one genre or the other. But I think just they could have done more better with the comedy in the third skit, you know, like pick and choosing exactly what they wanted, and then like for certain parts like just don't put it in there because I feel like some parts were unnecessary, and especially, you know, him ducking and then she doesn't see where he is, like that kind of like threw me off, you know. And then like all of a sudden he's like walking away from the kitchen and then like turn around, the dude doesn't see him, you know. So it throws me off, but I think they could have done better with that. So, and then my overall, I guess I would say probably a 7 out of 10, you know, like given the fact that they probably didn't have a really big team to do this and they probably didn't have a big budget either. So then they were able to produce a 1 hour and 40 minutes film with just these 3 skits, you know, which is really good. You know, a lot of times it's, you know, really hard to make a short film, you know, even for us making like a 5 to 8 minute short film is like time consuming, you know, you have to drive around, you have to do things, and you got to do it within a specific time frame too. So I understand that too. But yeah, that's my overall rating.
For the first one, I would give it a 6 out of 10. Second one, 7 out of 10. Last one, 5 out of 10. Overall, 6.5 out of 10. Just because I think that, you know, where they could have cut things, they didn't cut. Where they could have execute, they didn't execute. Where they could have extended things, they didn't extend. All great ideas are there, which is why they have 6, 10, 7 out of 10, 5 out of 10, because all the stuff are there, but a lot of it are just slapped on, you know?
It was forced.
And and so of course, and of course, you know, there are some scenes where it was like, oh wow, like that's really funny, or that's really cool, I really like that, you know, but yeah, they could have done a lot better with their great ideas and their creativity and with all the resources that they've had and stuff like that, you know. And so I don't know, I just want to put out there that, you know, we're not hating. We're not hating.
Yeah.
We're saying all this from, you know, a perspective where we understand, you know, the struggles and stuff like that from our own experiences. And, you know, we would not be saying all these things if we did not have anything to offer. In our case, constructive criticism. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. All of you, actually. Yeah, it's very hard. Like I said, I think our perspective and our lens when we were watching this movie is because we understand, you know, because we also do things like this, right? We make our own skits, we write our own scripts, we act, and we also, you know, understand the whole post-production and lightings and all that stuff and the importance of it all. And I think that's why, you know, we critique it the way we do, because we may not have that kind of budget as well as they do, but we also may not have as much experiences maybe, but I think we understand where it's all coming from, right? Or have a sense of where it's coming from. But going back to ratings, I think for me, the first skit, I want to give it a 6.5 out of 10, just because I feel like it was so momoxian that, like, I think they could have done that more, because you already know it's so sad, and obviously it's also very scary, but, you know, it was just like a roller coaster. And I think if they needed like the last scene of the first skit, like the momoxian, like the way that long doneta, right, it could have been, if you're gonna pull my strings, just pull it all the way. You know, right? I don't know. That's how I felt. Toko was scary.
Almost went there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they almost got you, and then they just, like, stopped. And it was like,
and that's the same with the scary part, because, you know, like, I felt the suspense coming, and that's where I was like, okay, this is a really good time where they're gonna do a cheap scare, like, and then it didn't happen, and I was like, what the heck? You know, and I'm like, so where are your transition? Like, where are you trying to get at? I don't understand, you know? So that's why I give it the way it does, because it's very confusing, and it could have been really well. And I thought it was a very sad, scary story too. But yeah, and then for the second skit, I think, again, is one of my favorite too, like you all. I would say about an 8 out of 10 as well, just because the transition from the first to second itself, I would say like 2 out of 10. Because that plays such a big part in me, like, feeling the way I feel, you know? But yeah, besides the transition and just having it, the story itself, I think is 8 out of 10. It could have been longer, and I think we could have connected more because we were so invested in these characters that I think it could have been a really good skit by itself. And if we had more emotions with them, I think that would have been really cool. But 8 out of 10 on that. And then to the third one, obviously we knew right away after the first transition that this was a new skit already, because these new characters are there. And then having a piece when we went to the house, that's when we're like, oh my gosh, here's a crossover. So the third one's a crossover. So how is it? Then you know, your thoughts are like, how are they gonna cross over with the second one? Then is that how it's gonna be? And then no, yes and no, you know. So I did not like that. It felt very forced. So I would say 6 out of 10 for that last one. Even though it was funny, like, I caught myself laughing a lot too, but I don't know. I think it felt very forced, and it didn't seem very connecting at all. I don't know. Yeah. So overall, I would say like 7.5 out of 10. For me overall.
Okay.
Totally would watch it again though. That's not gonna lie, just because, like, there was so much going on.
In case you missed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and because it was so confusing at some points that I want to go back. Like, you know how there are certain movies where you watch and you're like, I don't like it. It was too confusing. I don't want to watch it again. This was like a confusing movie where I do want to watch it back again. And it's not like a movie where you need to rewatch to catch everything. It's just kind of like, now that I understand the way that it's supposed to be, I want to watch it again to really understand for what it is, you know? So I would totally watch it again, and I would recommend others to watch it just because it's something very different in our Hmong community, a film like this, you know what I mean? And I don't know how Nu was like. Maybe that's how it was like, you know, I'm wondering if that's how their movie was like. So maybe for others, this movie was kind of like expected to be the way it was. So again, I don't know how it was, but I would recommend it just because it is very different. It's unique and very, you can tell they put a lot of effort into this film though. And obviously it's very hard to do something like this, and I would recommend others to watch this movie. Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel, but I think people should watch this movie.
Agree.
Yeah.
I feel like they had so much fun filming it.
Yes.
And if you, as the creator, if you had fun filming it, more power to you. You know, at the end of the day, our critiques are just other people critiques, and that's it. You know, you can take it as what it is or don't care for it at all. And for you guys watching this, yeah, you should watch it to make a review for yourself too. And I hope that some of the things that we said doesn't push you away from watching it, because I think it is worth watching. Especially the second skit. Like, it really is good. I feel like, oh my god, like, I'm just like, everybody needs to see it. That part, like, if you don't watch everything else, just watch that part, because that's what's worth watching too. But overall, I liked how they tie it in and try to make the third one wrap around. Yeah, it was good. It wasn't bad, like bad. It was like good. And yeah, I really want to watch their other movie now, just to see.
Yeah, so please go watch the movie, you know, and support our directors and movie creators out there, you know, because, like, especially in the Hmong community, we're still small, but everyone's like doing their little part and everyone's like doing their own little thing. So I think it's good that we support them, so that, who knows, maybe a couple years down the line, they'll have a bigger budget and they'll be able to continue these stories or make even better stories, you know? Like, I've never seen movies that thought of like concepts like this before, especially Hmong movies, you know? So I think this is really cool of what they did.
So again, thank you, Charlie Productions, for allowing us to watch this film and review it and react to it as well. I think you guys are amazing. Keep doing what you guys are doing, and hopefully one day you guys put out, you know, bigger and better movies along the way, and we are here to support you all. Make sure you guys give them a rating and review as well, because they would love to see what you guys think about their film. Again, recommend you guys to watch this movie if you guys are have seen it. Let us know what you guys think about the film along with what we said. Until then, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.